On the morning of December 7th, 1988, winter had already settled over northern Armenia. In the city of Spitak, frost clung to window edges, and breath turned to smoke in the cold air. It was just before noon. Children were in school. Parents were home or at work. Apartment buildings stood shoulder to shoulder, gray concrete against a pale sky. At 11:41 a.m., the earth moved. Not gently, not gradually. It snapped. The first jolt felt like a heavy truck slamming into the foundation of every building at once. Dishes shattered. Windows exploded inward. Walls split open with cracking sounds that echoed through stairwells. Then came the second shock. Stronger. Violent. Buildings did not sway, they folded. Entire apartment blocks collapsed in seconds, turning into mountains of concrete dust. The sky went dark with debris. The air filled with screams. In one of those buildings, a young mother named Anahit was inside her apartment with her infant daughter. The baby had been resting nearby when the shaking began. Anahit didn't have time to run. The ceiling came down. The floor vanished beneath her. Concrete crushed the world into silence. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in a room. She was in darkness. Total darkness. And for several seconds, she didn't understand what had happened. There was weight on her body. Heavy, crushing weight, but not enough to stop her breathing. Dust burned her throat. Something warm ran down her forehead. And then she heard it. A small cry. Her baby. Shh, she whispered immediately, though she didn't know why. Her voice sounded strange, swallowed by the rubble. She tried to move her legs. They wouldn't respond. Pain shot through her lower body like fire. She reached with her arms and felt broken concrete inches from her face. A slab had fallen across her lower body, pinning her in place. But above her head and shoulders, there was a small pocket of space. Enough to breathe. Enough to survive. If she could hold on. She called her daughter's name. A tiny whimper answered from somewhere just beside her. With trembling fingers, she searched blindly until she felt fabric. Her baby's blanket. The child was wedged near her shoulder, protected by what had once been a wooden cabinet that had collapsed at an angle, forming a fragile triangle of air. Outside, the world had become chaos. Spitak was nearly erased in under 30 seconds. Entire neighborhoods flattened. Roads cracked. Power lines snapped. The earthquake measured 6.8 in magnitude, but the destruction felt much larger. Rescue crews were overwhelmed immediately. Thousands were trapped. Thousands more were gone. Under the rubble, time slowed. The first hours passed in shock. Anahit held her daughter close as best she could without moving her trapped legs. Dust settled into their lungs. The air felt thin but breathable. She shouted at first, "Help! We're here!" Her voice echoed strangely through layers of debris. No answer came. The baby began crying harder. And that's when the real fear set in. Infants cannot survive long without water. Adults can last days. Babies cannot. Anahit searched the darkness around her, stretching her free arm carefully through the tight space. She felt broken glass, splintered wood, cold stone. No water, no food, nothing. The hours dragged on. She tried to count them by the rhythm of her breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. At some point, the cries of people above faded. The initial chaos of the collapse gave way to distant mechanical sounds, heavy equipment beginning rescue efforts. She screamed again. Her throat felt raw. Nothing. The baby's cries weakened. That terrified her more than the noise had. On the second day, the cold crept in. December in northern Armenia is unforgiving. The temperature dropped sharply overnight. Concrete holds cold like a freezer. Anahit wrapped her daughter in what remained of the blanket and pressed her against her chest to share warmth. The baby's lips were dry. Her own mouth felt like sand. And that's when she made a decision no mother should ever have to make. She reached toward the broken glass near her hand. She hesitated for only a moment. Then she pressed the shard gently against her finger. The cut was small but deep enough. Blood welled up slowly. She guided her daughter's mouth to her finger. It was not much, but it was something. The baby suckled weakly. Anahit fought tears, knowing that crying would waste precious moisture her body could not spare. She repeated the act carefully over the next hours, spacing it out, giving only what she believed she could survive without. Above them, rescuers dug through mountains of debris. The scale of destruction was beyond anything Armenia had ever experienced. Entire cities, Spitak, Leninaken, Kirovakan, were devastated. Rescue teams from other Soviet republics began arriving, but roads were damaged and snow slowed progress. After 48 hours, survival chances usually drop sharply. After 72 hours, they drop even more. But under the rubble, Anahit refused to accept time as an enemy. She spoke softly to her daughter in the dark. She told her stories. She told her they would see the sun again. She did not know if it was true. On what was believed to be the third day, she heard something new. Not machinery, not distant voices. Closer. A scraping sound, concrete shifting. She forced herself to shout. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. She gathered what strength she had left and struck a piece of metal against the slab near her shoulder. Tap. The sound was weak. She waited. Tap. Silence. Then faintly she heard something from above. A voice. She struck again. Tap. This time, someone shouted. Is anyone there? Her heart slammed in her chest so hard she thought it might shake the rubble itself. Yes, she screamed. My baby! We're here! Rescuers froze. They had been clearing debris methodically when one worker thought he heard something beneath the concrete layers. Many sections had already been declared silent. But that small sound, almost imagined, made him stop. They worked carefully now. Every slab had to be lifted with precision. One wrong move could collapse the fragile air pocket. Minutes felt like hours. Dust filtered down as light began piercing through cracks. After days of darkness, even a thin beam felt blinding. A rescuer's face appeared through a narrow gap. I see them, he shouted. The baby was lifted first, wrapped in blankets immediately. Her small body was weak, but alive. Then they freed Anahit. Her legs were badly injured. She could not stand. But she was alive. Both of them were. Doctors later said that without some form of hydration, even minimal, the infant likely would not have survived that long under such conditions. The story spread quickly through Armenia and beyond. In the middle of overwhelming tragedy, tens of thousands dead, this survival felt almost impossible. A mother trapped for days in freezing darkness, pinned beneath concrete, sustaining her child with the only thing she had left to give: her own blood. The 1988 Armenian earthquake remains one of the darkest days in the nation's history. Entire families were lost. Entire neighborhoods erased. But in one small air pocket beneath a collapsed building in Spitak, something extraordinary happened. In total darkness, without food, without water, without knowing if anyone was coming, a mother chose action over panic. Breath by breath, hour by hour, she refused to let silence win. And somewhere above her, a rescuer paused long enough to hear the faintest sign of life. Sometimes survival isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's a whisper under concrete, a small tapping, a child's cry, a mother's voice in the dark saying, "Hold on." And against all odds, the world answered back. As always, visit us at readtherealstory.com for more chilling stories you won't find anywhere else.